What's in your toolbox? A senior marketing executive joins us to tell us what's in his. I'm Tanya Hall with ZDNet, and we're joined by Aaron Strout, who's the Chief Marketing Officer of the W2O Group and host of What to Know podcast. Welcome, Aaron.
Glad to be here, Tanya. Thanks for having me.
So what does the W2O Group do?
We are a marketing and communications agency, really heavily underpinned by analytics and insights. And so we do everything from PR to content creation, analytics, social media, paid social media, you name it.
So analytics, you mentioned that. There are a lot of agencies out there, and understanding how to better serve your clients is a constant game changer. How do you use data and analytics and intelligence to serve your clients?
It's a great question. And, I'm going to take a step back because right now there are what's called Yoda bytes of information. I don't know if that has anything to do with Yoda from Star Wars, but it's like lots and lots and lots of data. And it's with, if you think about all of the surveillance, security, all the media, streaming media that's out there, health records, et cetera. So we're up to our eyeballs in data. Now, the problem is a lot of people don't really know how to use it. Some suffer from analysis paralysis, but a lot of them don't really have the tools or the processes. And so one of the things that attracted me to W2O back in the day, and anybody can do this, by the way, is finding very specific use cases for data. So for us, it's helping to better understand who influencers are for companies, to understand which channels their customers are using, what content really resonates, both from a social and owned perspective, and really understanding what the return on investment should be with anything that they're doing from a display or search perspective. And, it really boils down to being able to think creatively about it. We have a number of data scientists on staff, and thinking about what are ways that we can collect content and data on a regular basis. How do we house it? How do we process it? What are the algorithms we want to put it through? And stress testing those things. And then also looking at things like, it's relatively easy to find a number of, query strings and what people are saying. But, clients always ask, can you find sentiment? And so there is a way to do it, but there is no sort of automated sentiment. People have tried with machine learning and things like that, but it's really difficult. So there absolutely is a way. It's just a matter of being creative and patient and really building the right processes.
What are some of the software tools that you use to data mine?
So we see ourselves as equal opportunity data ingesters. So we take it in from a variety of places. We work with folks like Crimson Hexagon. We work with folks like Sysomos, Sprinkler, but then we also take in data from the actual platforms themselves. We use a lot of Google, search data, a lot of their APIs and tools, which, by the way, many of which are free or are free with, usage of some of the paid search activity that you do. And then we actually build a lot of our own processes and algorithms, and that's really where the magic happens. Then we also use things like Crowdflower and Mechanical Turk. They're, I don't know what the right way to describe them is, but it's essentially tapping into the crowd for very low cost. So if you do want to do things like sentiment analysis, you can use them to have human eyes validate whether they actually are what you think that they are. Are they positive? Are they negative? Are they neutral?
What's a case study or a success story of one of your clients using these types of tools?
Well, I'll say Intel is one of them, so the chip maker. And one of the things that we do with them is we do a tremendous amount of analytics work for them. They place a premium on CES, the Consumer Electronics Show, which happens in Vegas, so just around the corner. And they invest a tremendous amount. They build a command center. They have a huge display on the showroom floor. And one of the things that's become very important to them over the last several years is share of voice. So they're not competing against other chip makers per se, but they're competing against folks like, Apple or Microsoft, and not in a, like, we're trying to beat you, but just making sure that their message shows up and that they are, they're putting out the right content and creating the right experience. So we're able to, in real time, monitor and help them understand, what things are trending, maybe where there's a gap in content, so that their content team who sits on site can actually create that content, and then making sure that we're sort of measuring it all along And then most importantly, we're able to look back in history and say, okay, what can we expect from like a peaks and valleys perspective? Who traditionally are the big players? What do we need to do to make sure that we're sort of keeping pace with them? When do we want to have key talks by the CEO? Things like that.
Social platforms have traditionally let us, as marketers or brands, promote our products and services for free to reach an audience. They've kind of wised up, and now it actually costs to do that. How have you migrated from this kind of free social economy to a paid strategy?
So we have people on staff that just are really good at targeting, and that's actually a place where the analytics does come into play. So knowing who the influencers are, what the right content is a huge advantage. We actually have also been able to do something called attribution modeling, which again, multiple companies can do, but helping companies understand which of their tweets, Facebook posts, Instagram posts, what type of digital content is really resonating. Does it have a brand lift? Does it actually ring the cash register? But I think one of the questions you're getting at that we prepped a little bit for is, because it's not free anymore and clients do have to pay for it, there are other ways to sort of get your message out there. We talked a little bit about influencers, but there's this new, not so new concept called employee advocacy. And the reason I want to mention it on this sort of technically focused show is there are tools now that allow companies to do what they've never felt comfortable doing. And that is, companies always sort of were interested in tapping into their thousands of employees to share their social messages or their web content or blog content. But they're always a little afraid, like, what if they say the wrong thing, or, we can't track it, or what's an easy way to actually get those messages out? So now there are tools like LinkedIn's Elevate, Dynamic Signal, Social Chorus, who have built platforms and allow marketers like myself or folks in comms to put the right content out, and they can either lock it down, and they can lock it down by audience or by message type. They can lock it down by channel, or there are companies like ours who use it, and we let people use Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn. You can customize the message if you want to. You can share across one or multiple channels. You can schedule it. And so it's a really great way to create a lift in terms of getting the message out there, either for yourself or for your clients. And if your clients are doing it, we work with a large financial services company in New York, and they're starting to roll that out with their, hundreds of thousands of employees, and it's becoming quite powerful.
Well, employee advocacy is certainly important. How as a business leader, you're the chief marketing officer, so you hold a C-level role in your organization. Have you had any internal challenges that's prevented you guys from moving forward?
Yeah, it's a great question. There's two types. One is you can have content fatigue. So the good news is, unlike some companies, we actually put out a tremendous amount of content. Podcasts. I have a podcast show called the What to Know Podcast. We put out blog posts. We do videos. Sort of post digests of important news that's going on. And what happens sometimes is, we have 600 employees, and some of the employees will always share, but some of them sort of feel like, oh, there's, another post that I have to put out there. So one of the things we're trying to do a better job at, and it's something we advise our clients to do, is to think about being very discerning about what content they're asking their employees to share. The other is that while these companies have partnerships with the different social channels, there are some times where certain algorithms get penalized. And so, for instance, Dynamic Signal, who's the one we use, they've had a couple of glitches recently with Facebook, one of which is Facebook has made a determination recently where they don't want you putting through a visual that isn't sort of represented on the site that you're putting the link in for. So we've had to work around that in terms of social cards. And the other is sometimes just putting content out. If you were to post something natively versus me posting something through one of these channels, sometimes they can suffer a little bit from, their uptake because the algorithm doesn't look at it as favorably as it might if you're natively posting. So they're all overcomeable, but those are things just that we have to be mindful of when we're doing it and when we're working with clients.
Is it possible that maybe some employees might feel a negative pressure to post the company's message?
That is definitely something that is, a real possibility. And we've heard people say that. And, the good thing in our case, and we certainly, again, suggest this with other companies, is don't make people do anything they don't want to do. But at the same time, if we're putting out good content and content that people care about and people want to share, then there's more of an inclination versus just a rah, 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 aren't we great? Don't you want to share this message and crow it from the rooftop?
I think you've done amazing work at the WTO group. I really appreciate you taking some time to share how you are transforming at the agency world. I appreciate it. And if somebody wants to follow you, how can they go about doing that?
Well, there's a few places, but I'll keep it simple. So I mentioned the What to Know podcast, which they can search for on iTunes. It's just What, the number 2, Know, KNOW. We have a lot of really interesting guests. Twitter, I'm just Aaron Strout, AARONSTROUT, and I'm the same on Instagram. So those are all great places to find me. And then certainly I do blog sometimes on the W2O group site, and lots of great content there.
And thanks again for joining us. I'm Tanya Hall. You can find more of my work on ZDNet or Tech Republic, or follow me on Twitter at Tanya Hall Radio, or Facebook by searching for The Tanya Hall Show. Until next time.